Hi everybody, I'm Ann B. Welcome to your very first day of your self-maintenance challenge. And today I am coming to you from my bedroom. And we are going to be talking about the importance of getting full rest. So, there's a couple of things that are really important about getting rest. I know that there's lots of stuff out there about it, but a couple of reasons that it's important to get a good night's sleep. First of all, making sure that you get a good night's sleep means that your body is able to repair from your day. So it helps us maintain our memory. It helps us rebound from stress. It helps with our immunity. And more importantly, for our purposes for this self-maintenance challenge, it helps us listen to the signals that are coming from our body. So it's going to help us really tune in to how we're feeling and what we need to pay attention to. So if we are starting to feel a little overwhelmed or starting to feel a little overstressed, or is that pain typical of my body, or is that something I need to pay a little bit more attention to? Do I need to eat more? It's a little harder for us to really discern the differences between all of those things if we're just flat out tired. So think about this in terms of a 2-year-old. When you see that 2-year-old who's sort of missed that window, so to speak, so after lunchtime and a 2-year-old needs to take a nap, and all of a sudden that 2-year-old goes from, I'm sort of happy, now I'm tired, now holy gosh, I'm just absolutely utterly exhausted and everything is wrong in the world, right? As adults, we get there too. If we don't get enough sleep, we all have those things happen for us, that all of a sudden everything around us drives us crazy and we can't really interpret everything that's happening. It's all we know is that everything makes us mad. And so that's one of the reasons why it's really important for us to really get enough sleep. So we're going to talk today about what good sleep means, how to get good sleep, and what you can do to start achieving that. So first of all, what does good sleep mean? Good sleep means 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. No kidding, no breaks, nothing. That means naps don't count. So as much as I love my naps, and lots of people do, naps just don't cut it. It also means that if we have a rough night of sleep and we try to catch up on the weekends, that's great, but also doesn't catch up, because the reality is we never recover from that sleep debt. Because we need to have that really deep sleep for our body to recover and repair. So, how do we get that? Lots of us deal with a couple of different kinds of insomnia. And the first one is difficulty falling asleep. So raise your hand if that's you. Yep, I thought so. There's lots and lots and lots of us. So we'll talk about kind of how to deal with that. The other is difficulty in staying asleep. Yeah, so raise your hand if that's you. Yep, especially lots of us who kind of reach a certain age and find ourselves having to get up and make those middle of the night bathroom trips a lot. So yeah, that happens a lot for us as well. So we'll talk about that. So starting with, how do we fall asleep? How do we unplug, get our bodies prepared for resting and get ourselves kind of in that mindset? Just like anything else that we do, we have to prepare our bodies for what's coming next. So I often think of this as our bodies are, in a sense, grumpy 2-year-olds. And just like we would have to prepare our bodies, our grumpy 2-year-olds, for what's coming next, we would not just grab a 2-year-old unless it was an emergency and pull our 2-year-old along and drop them into the next activity. We wouldn't just take a 2-year-old and drag them along and go, all right, here you are, now we're at dinner, and expect there to not be a meltdown. That's a great way to incite a meltdown. We generally say, all right, so we are getting ready to go to dinner now, and you're going to see Uncle Paul and you're going to see Aunt Yvette, and let them know sort of what's preparing. We have to do that with our bodies too, and one of the greatest ways that we do that is by setting up routines. So oftentimes as adults, we do that when we're preparing for meetings. We do that when we're preparing to leave the house because we don't want to leave anything behind. We want to make sure we've got our keys, our phones, our purses, all of those things. But when we're preparing to come to bed, we generally don't have as great of a routine, at least not anything that's well thought out. So because we don't have that well thought out routine, our body often a busy day, we get to bed and our brains and our bodies are like, well, wait a second, I have to like calm down while I'm laying in bed here, rather than coming down slowly off of that day. So the first thing is to think about what time are you going to be getting up in the morning. And if you are a night owl, so you're going to be, it's not in me to be falling asleep at 10 o'clock, and I know I have the luxury to be sleeping a little bit later, that's completely fine. But think about how you can adjust that so that you're still going to get that 7-hour block. That's your goal. That's the important part. So if you know I don't have to get up until 9 o'clock in the morning, great. Your goal is to be dead asleep by 2 a.m. That's your 7-hour stretch. So then think about, what do you need to do before 2 a.m. to be dead asleep? And that means you need to start winding down well before, so that your brain is shut off by that bedtime. And so a couple of things to think about are winding down your body and winding down your brain. So winding down our body, we want to make sure that caffeine's out of our system, alcohol is out of our system. Both of those, even though we think that our body can absorb them, I assure you they can't. So even though you think like, oh no, I'm immune to the Mountain Dew, chemically our body is still reacting to it, and it's going to keep your heart rate up. And so even though you might fall asleep, it is not deep, restful sleep, and that's our goal. And so start thinking about backing that off a little bit earlier. And think about things that are going to be a little bit more restful for you. So you may want to introduce a meditation if that's something that speaks to you. You may want to think about backing away from social media. Depending on what you're reading, on what you're doing, that may amp you up a little bit more. And again, our goal is to bring our heart rate back down so that we can rest and relax. Plus, the light from our devices tends to get our brain buzzing a little bit more, and that's not going to help our brain settle. So when you put your head down, your brain is going to be buzzing a little bit more. And particularly if you're doing anything having to do with work, it's going to get you going on what you need to do the next morning. Meditation can be particularly helpful for you with that. So those are a couple of things to think about. So getting your body settled down is definitely important. One of the other things that can really, really, really be helpful for you is, this is my very favorite thing ever purchased. This is a weighted blanket. So this is a 15-pound weighted blanket. I'm going to put a link on our cool resources page on Kula Yoga STL. And if you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, this might just be the thing for you. So this gives you just enough pressure to relax you and keep you settled. It is not it's not terribly warm. So if you're worried about, like, I'm one of those people who can't sleep with a lot of warmth on me, don't worry about that. But this has been a tremendous help for me. I fall asleep with this and I don't move at all. If you have a hard time staying asleep, just again, like we do with 2-year-olds, I would really suggest backing off drinking anything couple hours before bed, because it's gonna reduce those middle of the night trips to the bathroom. And again, restless leg syndrome, and something like this, like a weighted blanket, can be a real lifesaver for that. So your homework for tonight is just to start to write down 3 different things that you can do to put into place for a bedtime routine. Your goal, again, 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So I just want you to start thinking about that. I know it can seem like a really big daunting task if you're not there right now, and that's okay. You don't need to jump right into it right now. So if you're getting 5 hours of sleep, try for 5.5, and then we can start moving up from there. We'll get there. Everything is just little bitty increments, and this is a task that shouldn't really cost you much of anything unless you want to buy a weighted blanket. And again, that's totally up to you. But this is time to find on your own. If you feel like you're working right up until then take an inventory of what you're doing right up until the time that you go to bed, and see what is truly necessary and what are things that can be done at other times. And we're going to talk about that in some upcoming episodes. But for right now, I really just want you to come up with 3 different things that you can put in a routine to help your body and your brain get on board with it's about to be sleepy time. Okay, so happy May 1st. And I'm going to look forward to seeing you tomorrow, where we're going to have another Hack Your Life tip, another random act of rebellion for your self-maintenance challenge. Have a great time and enjoy your Wednesday.